Welcome to the darkness, where every shadow hides a story. I'm the Doctor, and in this world, reality is just the beginning of the terror. Grab a seat, turn off the lights, and let's dive right into tonight's tale of fear. Don't say I didn't warn you. Tonight we delve into a story of a boy who walked into the Australian desert and never came back. A young woman lured to a house showing on New Year's Eve that wasn't a house showing. Priceless art vanishing from the most famous museum in the world. And the horrors, so ordinary, they hide in paperwork, storage rooms, and in places we are supposed to feel safe. Tonight, we are not talking about the ghost stories. These are scariest, true stories that we talked about in 2025. Before we begin, a fair warning. Many of the stories you're about to hear involve real crime, real victims, and unresolved questions. Details are based on reporting from news outlets, books, and documentaries released or resurfacing in 2025. Some scenes are dramatized for storytelling, but the core events are real, very real. If you're still here, let's start with the story of the small boy in the Australian outback. The disappearance of Gus Lamont. It's September 2027. On a remote property in South Australia, a family is living from what looks from outside a quiet rural life. The sky is a hard, endless blue, and the land is flat and unforgiving. The 4-year-old boy, Gus Lamont, is playing near the house. At that age, kids wander. They chase sounds, bugs, shapes in the distance. Someone looks away for a second, maybe to answer a phone call, maybe to grab something from inside. But when they look back, Gus is gone. The first instinct is simple. He must have walked off. The property is searched and the neighboring lands. Then beyond that, within hours, a full-scale search begins. Volunteers, police, search and rescue teams fan out across the red dirt. Helicopters sweep the area. Thermal imaging is used to pick up any traces of the small boy, any sign of life, any movement. Nothing. Days pass. There are no footprints anyone can definitely tie to him. No discarded clothing. No signs of an animal attack. No ransom call. Just a child messing in a landscape that does not forgive mistakes. Investigators wrestle with two main possibilities. Did Gus simply wander too far and succumb to the elements? His remains scattered or hidden away that searchers missed. Or did someone take him? Neighbors, families, and workers in the area are questioned. Roads are checked for any vehicle that might have passed at the right time. But in an area this remote, sometimes the only witness is the horizon. As of now, the case remains unsolved. Gus Lamont is a name that hovers like a ghost over the Australian outback. A reminder that sometimes people don't vanish into the dark, they vanish into the light. The house showing from hell. New Year's Eve. Most of us, it's a night of parties, countdowns, and resolutions we won't keep. For one 28-year-old real estate agent in the United States, it was supposed to be one last showing before the holidays. A client had reached out, interested in a property. Nothing unusual. This is just how people buy homes every day. They agreed on a time. She drives out to meet them. What she doesn't know is that the showing is fake. The client is bait and the house is a trap. According to the case documents, messages threads later dissected online, This was not a crime of opportunity, it was meticulously planned. The mastermind, Lyndon Wiggins, and his accomplices allegedly plotted every single step, from luring her to the property, to isolating her, to the violence they intended to commit. She arrives. We don't have an exact transcript of her final moments, but we know this. She is kidnapped, assaulted, and murdered. Around the same time, her boyfriend is targeted in a related shooting but survives. When the police piece together the case, the most chilling part isn't the brutality, it's how normal everything looked, until it did. A phone call, an appointment on the calendar, a house key turning into a lock. For real estate agents, rideshare drivers, delivery workers, anyone whose jobs require them meeting strangers in unfamiliar places, this story hits like a lightning bolt. Because it confirmed the fear we tried to push away. Sometimes you don't have to go out looking for danger. Sometimes it sends you an address. The crime inside the world's most famous museum, the Louvre in Paris, home of the Mona Lisa, a fortress of art, shielded by security guards, cameras, alarms, and layers of protocol. And yet, in 2025, thieves managed to pull off one of the most art heists of the decade. Details from reporting and leaked documents paint a picture of a crime that feels almost cinematic. This isn't a masked man smashing glass cases and sprinting for the exit. This is slow, careful, surgical. Access badges were cloned and stolen. Blind spots and security cameras are mapped out. Timing is everything. In less than the runtime of a feature film, a small group moves through the areas the public never sees, past doors rarely opened, towards a specific target. When it's over, the security sees nothing. Cameras show nothing obvious. No alarms blare through the galleries. It's only later, when there is a regular check that is done, that someone notices the space where a priceless piece once hung is just an outline on the wall. As investigators dig in, they realize the terrifying part. These thieves didn't just get lucky, they studied the system so well, they made it work for them. In 2025, people talked about this case not just because of the money involved, but because it confirmed a suspicion. If someone is patient enough, smart enough, they can walk into the safest places on earth and walk out with the history under their arms. The year the veil fell thin. Not all of 2025's scariest stories involved court cases and case files. Some live in the spaces we can't quite explain. A viral article, 10 Scariest True Stories of 2025 That Will Haunt You Forever, collects accounts from across the world, haunted houses, cursed locations, encounters with people that swear things really happened. One such event involves a family that moves into a new house. At first, it's small things, objects not where they were left, a radio turning on by itself. Then the nights get louder, footsteps above their bedroom when no one is upstairs, a door slamming at 3:07 a.m. exactly every night like clockwork. They set up cameras, they catch nothing conclusive, just noises in the dark, movements and shadows, a feeling that doesn't translate to video. Another story. Travelers stop at the cursed road shrine after a car accident nearby. They leave without incident. Days later, they report waking up at exactly the same time every night, feeling something heavy sitting on their chest, unable to move or scream. Doctors might call it sleep paralysis. Priests might call it something else. These stories spread not because they are fully provable, but because they echo experiences many people have quietly had. The moment in a hallway when lights are turned off, when you're suddenly not sure that you're alone. Whether you believe in paranormal or not, 2025's wave of true horror compilations proved one thing: we are still very, very scared of the dark. The stranger in the house. If you have ever fallen down a late night YouTube rabbit hole, you've probably seen titles like 3 True Stories That'll Keep You Up at Night, or 5 Real Life Horror Stories from Viewers. In 2025, some of the scariest so called true stories came from these viewer submissions. One popular theme: realizing someone had been secretly living in your home. A woman notices food going missing. Nothing big. A yogurt cup here, a soup can there. She blames stress, forgetfulness. And then, one night, she wakes up, hears a faint shuffling in the kitchen. By the time she checks, the room is empty. The cabinets are still swinging closed. She installs hidden camera just to be safe. When she checks the footage the next day, she sees it. At 2:46 a.m., a hatch in the hallway ceiling opens. A figure climbs down quietly. They move with familiarity, go to the fridge, eat, watch TV with volume low, and then, before sunrise, disappear back into the ceiling. Another story. A man keeps waking up, feeling watched. One night, he pretends to sleep. Through half eyes closed, he sees a silhouette standing in his bedroom doorway. The faint glow of a cigarette ember, a stranger just staring. By the time he fully wakes and turns off the light, the hallway is empty. Doors and windows are locked. Rational explanation exists. Mental health. Misperceptions. Pranks. But the reason these stories go so viral in 2025 is simple. They weaponize something we all have: our most private space. That suggests that we aren't alone as we think we are. The conference no one should have died at. One of the most unsettling books highlighted in 2025 is the Best True Crime Stories of the Year 2025, an anthology that gathers real cases from around the world. Among its themes is a grimly ironic one. True crimes fans become victims themselves. Picture this: a convention center lobby filled with people who love crime stories, podcasts, documentaries, books. They line up to hear panels about serial killers, forensic techniques, famous cold cases. In the crowd is someone who isn't just a fan, they're a hunter. They'll watch who leaves alone, who drinks too much at the hotel bar, who posts their room numbers on social media without thinking. What makes this type of story so chilling isn't a masked figure in the bushes, as the idea that a predator can attend an event built around awareness and safety and still find opportunity in chaos. The anthology doesn't just entertain, it quietly suggests a horrifying truth. Even in places devoted to studying evil, evil can walk in wearing a lanyard and a smile. The monsters hidden in the storage. Some of 2025's most disturbing horror stories don't revolve around a single killer, but around 1,000 untested pieces of evidence. The secret history of the rape kit exposes a nightmare that's less cinematic, far more systematic. For decades, survivors of sexual assault have endured invasive exams. Evidence is collected, swabs, clothing, photographs. These rape kits are then boxed, labeled, and in far too many cases left on a shelf, untested, ignored. Behind every photograph box is a story. A person who went through the worst night of their lives and then was told implicitly that their case didn't matter enough. In city after city, when these kits are finally tested years later, patterns emerge. Serial predators who could have been stopped earlier, victims who never knew their assailant's DNA was sitting in a box the whole time. The horror here isn't jump scare, it's slow crushing realization that sometimes the monster isn't hiding in the shadows, it's hiding in bureaucracy, in budget cuts, in someone deciding a stack of boxes could wait. While we celebrate these kids that are finally tested, we're left with an awful question. How many lives would have been different if someone had opened these boxes sooner? When the story in a file is a lie, most of us trust official records. If a death certificate says accident, we believe it. If a file says closed, we move on. The Man Nobody Killed, a standout true crime book of 2025, forces readers to confront how fragile that trust can be. At its core is a man whose death is ruled in a way that doesn't quite add up. The injuries do not fully match the explanation. Witness statements conflict. Timelines don't align. But the system moves on. Paperwork is filed, and the box is metaphorically and sometimes literally closed. It takes years, or a persistent investigator, or a grieving family member to try tugging on the loose threads. Why was one witness never properly interviewed? Why were certain autopsy details glossed over? Who benefited from the case being labeled "nothing to see here"? Slowly, in a different picture emerges. Maybe it wasn't an accident. Maybe it wasn't self inflicted. Maybe it wasn't as simple as the report suggested. The true horrors of stories like this is knowing that most people will never have someone to pull at those threads. They'll die twice, once in reality, once when a flawed report is accepted as the final word. Monsters on repeat. A wave of new, unexamined, re examined true crime documentaries came about. Some returned to infamous names: Ed Gein and John Wayne Gacy. Killers whose stories have already fueled decades of horror movies and books. But these documents added layers: previously unheard audio, recorded interview tapes, victim families speaking with rawness that earlier eras didn't allow. Other focused on modern nightmares, influencer led religious movements that quietly morphed into cults, using TikTok and live streams to record, recruit, and control. What begins as healing or manifestation ends with isolation, financial ruin, and sometimes physical harm. When you watch these documentaries in 2025, you're stuck by a grim pattern. Details change. Names, places, technologies, but the core strategies of manipulation, cruelty, and power stay almost identical across decades. It's like staring at the same monster wearing different capes. Old nightmares, new eyes. Finally, some of the scariest true stories circulating in 2025 weren't new at all. They were old horrors, given new life by viral threads, TikToks, and explainer videos. Ed Gein, a reclusive man in the 20th century Wisconsin, whose crimes would go on to inspire Psycho and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. When police searched his property, they found things that barely sounded real. Furnitures made of human skin, balls carved from skulls, a grotesque suit stitched from body parts. What horrified the audience wasn't just the gore, but the psychology. A loner obsessed with his mother, wrapped by isolation and obsession into something almost inhumane. Then there's Blanche Monnier, a young French woman born into a respectable family. She falls in love with a man her mother does not approve of. The punishment: she is locked in a small dark room for around 25 years. Neighbors suspect nothing. The family maintains a facade of normalcy. When authorities finally discover Blanche, she is emaciated, naked, lying in filth, bedding among her own waste. A window boarded up, a life stolen in slow motion. People encountering these cases for the first time react with the same disbelief as the reader a century ago. How could no one have stopped this? How could this have gone on for so long? And the threads tying all these stories together: the missing child in the desert, the ambush realtor, and the hidden horrors in the evidence rooms and family homes. It's not just what people do in a single moment of evil, it's what the rest of us miss or choose not to see. There are just some of these are just some of the real life nightmares talked about in 2025. Stories pulled from news reports, books, documentaries, and first hand accounts that refuse to let us sleep easy. Some remain unsolved, some ended in convictions, some exposed systems that failed the very people they were supposed to protect. But they all leave us with questions. How safe are we really? Who's watching the watchers? What stories are happening right now that we won't discover until it's too late? If you want more deep dives into true crime, real horrors, hit subscribe, turn on the notification, tell me in the comments which of tonight's stories disturb you the most. Links to the stories discussed in this video are in the description. Feel free to dive right in. I'm the doctor. Stay safe. Good night.